It is Pride the RC guy, guys. We are back, and as you saw in the beginning of this video, we finally got the NR200 to run. I got the diagnosis down. I'm so happy. I knew it was coming down to that, and that's what it was. Ignition, per se. Glow plugs. I bought a cheap $6 glow plug igniter off Facebook Marketplace. The thing ended up being busted. I've been trying to fix it all night. It just keeps popping off, but regardless, we got both cylinders ignited and we got her to fire up, and she sounds amazing. Still got a little bit of tuning. After a couple seconds it dies. I'm a little bit worried that it has something to do with the fuel tank being a little lower than the carburetor. So what I may actually end up doing is getting a hose barb and drilling and tapping the manifold and running a secondary line to pressurize the hose pressurize the tank just like any other nitro. Because I can raise the tank up a bit, but not really, and it's not going to be clean, and I want this thing to be as clean as possible. So, you got to see that clip. Without further ado, tonight we're going to get into a little bit of more of a build. So what I decided to do was I went ahead and I ran all the electronics back here. I'm actually putting it in the battery box. So what we're going to go ahead and do is I bought some sheets of plastic and I got some small hinges, and I'm actually going to make a little box. Half of this original battery box will be for all the electronics, and half of it will be for a battery. We're also going to go ahead, and I got the transmission. We're going to mount the transmission tonight. We're going to refabricate some mounts for the front 4-link because now, as you know, we had to take the bracket out. It's not going to fit anymore. And I also got the CEN Racing Chaos Edition upper 4th link for the rear because we had to use the rear panhard bar as an upper arm in the front, if that makes sense. So, I will show you that here. I decided to get it in red, so I'll mix the red and blue together. This thing was $30 alone for one arm. It's really nuts. Wanted to share with you guys everything else I got. I also got some Traxxas glow plug wires. These are going to go ahead and they're going to solder on right here into my harness. And I'm just tired of those 90-degree connectors. They're junk. I have my busted glow plug igniter here that Sterling Kit is sending me a new one, so we're waiting for that to come in. But I did run the wires in the meantime, and like I said, I'm going to go ahead and use these Easy Start wires to go on here because they'll work and they're not a hassle. What else did I get? Okay, we got the transmission reverse link, or brake link actually, and this is also a throttle link, so if we need it, we'll use it. Probably won't. It's only $6. We have the T-Max 3.3 transmission, brand new. Decided to stop messing around with the junk. Online, I went ahead and I got just the rear piece of the rear drive shaft from Traxxas, since you need this because the 2 pins, as you see right here, actually hold the brake disc in place. So I did find a drive shaft online that's actually made for a Tamiya Semi when you go ahead and extend the chassis. I think I mentioned this in another one of my videos, but I believe it'll fit right here in this coupler, and I'll be able to clamp this down onto that and take this piece off of the other drive shaft, if that makes sense. And that should work, and it's cut to length. The only thing I have to figure out is how to adapt it at the axles, because at the axles it is still a dog bone, which, you know, I still not 100% sure how I'm going to get around that, but we're getting there, one thing at a time. I went ahead and I also got a Y adapter. This Y adapter is going to be so I can run 2 different servos on one line. That'll be the throttle servo and the brake servo. They will work reverse of each other. And then I went ahead and I got from Power Hobby a remote turn-on switch, electronic switch. So this switch will actually be able to run it to a 3rd or 4th channel on my receiver, and I'll be able to actually have remote start with this thing in case it stalls. I won't have to go underneath the body all the time, which is really awesome. Some more parts that I ordered online, they'll be in tomorrow, would be a BEC. So we can go ahead and power up our receiver. I'm going to do that with a 5-volt BEC, ran to the back, ran off our 3S pack that powers the starter and also powers the glow igniters. So that way we don't have a bunch of battery packs, keep it clean as possible. I also got another Endura. This time I think it is an 18-gram servo just for the brake, along with a vertical mount that we have to make a bracket for that will mount over here. That will be in the morning. I also ordered, what else did I get? I think that's it. I think that's it for this guy. So yeah, we got some metal. I went ahead and went to Harbor Freight. I got this guy. I got a Bauer. It was on sale. Jigsaw, so I can go ahead and cut aluminum without having to use cutoff wheel anymore. This thing's very noisy. It takes forever. The cuts aren't as clean. And something they had cool at the hobby store, so I picked it up, was I would leave, it's a Zona mini vise. I would go ahead and leave a link in the description, but this is actually discontinued. I got the last one. It's really cool. It's all metal. It actually has a V cut in it, so you can cut tubing, which, you know, I use a lot of tubing for spacers and everything like that. So I am working on my glass table right now in my kitchen room, in my dining room, but hey, you got to start somewhere. So when I went to Harbor Freight, where is it here? They had, oh, this guy. On sale for $1.79. So I'm going to go ahead and, with some cardboard, I'm going to go ahead and clamp this vise right to the table, and that way we should be able to cut some brackets and get some work done. So stay tuned, guys. I know it's a long intro. We're going to get some cool work done tonight. That's not going to work. The top of these glow plugs are very much different. They're mushroomed at the top, as you can see with the Traxxas connector. Very, very tiny. Definitely not going to work. But I found some other ones online that are straight, and they say they'll work. They're coming from Alibaba, so I'll just order them up. I think they're only like $6. So, all right, let's get on to something else. What are we going to do now? Let's see. Probably get going on mounting the transmission. Oh boy. All right.
Dad, can you open the fridge? Because Mommy needs a soda.
Woo! And just like that, guys, we got the tranny all mounted up. Now, what I did was I took one of my Traxxas T-Max clutch bells and I used some like Play-Doh to kind of center it in there just to get an idea. Now, granted, that mesh is not perfect. You can see it's slightly off, but I wanted to get the right measurement for the trans. Did some nice aluminum brackets, and they are also slotted, so I can raise it up and down. They're also slotted here, so I can slide the trans forward and back to get the proper mesh. It actually just clears the exhaust. Just gonna have to do a little bit of modification, nothing serious. We got that down and done. Here's the bracket on the other side. That also works with the bracket for the throttle servo. We got the throttle all hooked up and working. So, got full throttle. Woo! Super happy with that. That is looking swell. I got the harness ran, just doing some modifications to the harness. We're still waiting on the glow igniter to come in, which leads us to the last issue, which is going to be the drive shaft. This is the stock joint that, you know, a universal joint that you have to use because it holds the brake disc. Now, as you can see, I had to mount that transmission kind of high. So, we're either going to have to notch out this electronics plate to get the angle, or I'm going to have to try and do a drop box. Either way, this plate's probably going to have to get trimmed out or raised up. I do have a idea for there's a custom drive shaft online that is used for Tamiya semis, like I said before. They also sell a two-piece adapter with a carrier, just like what the CEN has, two-piece drive shaft, because as you see, obviously this is not a straight angle. I could not center up the trans in the drive shaft. So I can get a two-piece drive shaft with a center carrier, which may work. Unfortunately, four-wheel drive is, it's not going to happen, guys. It's just not going to happen. Here we go right here, and the output of the trans is right there. It's just not going to happen with this transmission. Unless I do a drop box. If I'm able to make a drop box work, then it will. However, A, I don't know how it's going to hold up because it's meant for electric vehicles. B, the cheap one is not a two-speed. There's an expensive one that's a two-speed, but then I need to run another servo to be able to shift from high and low. So I'm not completely sure what I'm going to do yet for a drive shaft. I'll just be excited once I get the transmission completely bolted up. I hope the clutch comes in this week so I can see that proper meshing. The electronics, my BEC will be in today, so I'll be wiring up the receiver back here to the BEC. To the BEC. Yeah, I'm going to wire the BEC to the BEC. Idiot. To the power supply here. And I actually found it's 2.9 inches exactly from the igniter to the front of the battery box. And believe it or not, I actually found a 3S battery from Uvonik, which I do use their batteries quite often. That is 2.9 inches. I believe it's 1,000 milliamp, which is fine because, you know, all I'm doing is starting this thing with it. So, in the next video, what we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to make a little flip-up box for the electronics here. And the other thing we're going to do is make an aluminum mount here for the brake. So here's our brake, and I'm going to make a mount, and it's going to mount right here. What came in the mail today? Endura, another one, 25 kilogram, 90 degree servo. I really like these things. They're beautiful, they're ball bearing, and they're digital. And best part is they're cheap. So we'll see how it holds up. It's only going to be used for brake, so more concerned about the steering servo, but they're, I think it's like 22 bucks or something. They're cheap, and like I said, it's a beautiful servo, and the bling matters. Then I went ahead and I got a servo mount. This is a billet vertical servo mount, so that servo will sit essentially right here on a bracket that I make, and then I'll have the control rod, which, like I said, I bought the Traxxas one, but I don't know if it's going to work. Probably going to have to modify it, which is fine. I really just needed some of the pieces out of it anyway, and it was like so much cheaper, $6, yeah, to buy this than to make something up. So I may actually take the throttle rod here and bend it a bit and put all the brake components on it, which is just a hose. really, or, you know, I could use the spring. We'll see. And then I'll be using these two servos in conjunction on a Y connector. So as the throttle opens, the brake servo will work in, will go with it. But depending on how I turn and put the servo horn on, it will go the opposite direction, hopefully, or it'll just bypass the brake. And then when I go and hit the brake, it will go ahead and pull it. Now, this was a cheaper option than getting a very expensive radio where I'm actually able to change the dual rate and mix the channel of the trigger. That receiver alone was going to be a ridiculous amount of money. And at this point, I am a ridiculous amount of money into this thing. Look at this beautiful Chaos arm. I know this is the worst one to try to see it on camera, but oh man, this thing is just gorgeous. And since I bought that, yeah, now I want the rest of them. And they're very expensive. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. We got that tranny all mocked up. We got her started, finally. Thank you guys so much for following along with me. This has been a crazy build so far. Figuring out where every little component goes. That's why RCs out of the box cost so much money. There's a ton of engineering going into it. The last thing I want to show you guys, I got the 4-link setup. I was able to keep the stock location for the lower link, and then the upper links are actually mounted right here. Come on, focus. Upper links are mounted right here to the top of the lower link mount, and it works beautifully. Exactly as it's supposed to. Very happy with that. So everything's looking good, guys. Stay tuned next time.